Hello, viewers. Welcome to our interview session at the African Youth Summit. With me here, I have the SLC President of University of Professional Studies here in Accra. His name is Mr. Justice Gaduga. Mr. Justice Gaduga, welcome to AAU TV.
Thank you very much. I'm privileged to be with you.
All right. Justice, today's topic on the panel, we were talking about Africa beyond corruption. As a student leader, are you aware of the continental initiatives surrounding how to fight corruption?
Exactly. I'm very, very aware of what is going on in Africa to fight corruption, because we've realized that corruption is what has made Africa not develop like what we are seeing in other continents. So I believe that it's a good cause that Africa is charting, and we are together involved in ensuring that this reality will happen.
Okay, Justice, right now, the Agenda 2063, we are focusing on the youth. As a youth student leader, what are you doing in your own school to fight corruption in your administration?
Okay, thank you. What I would like to say is that as youth coming up to be future leaders, what we have to do is that, because right now those who are aged, they are going out very soon and we are taking over, we have to take on conscious effort to be able to reform our mindset so that we can fight corruption. So personally, as an SRC president, what we have done is that we've been able to bring on board programs and initiatives to ensure that students' mindsets are reformed about corruption and its effects on the African continent and its effects on the Ghanaian populace. So what we are doing is that we are engaging with various bodies that will help organize programs so that students' mindsets are reformed. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a program on our campus called the Accountability Forum, and the students were involved and the students were on board to listen to this particular conference, so that students will know the effects of corruption on Africa and on the Ghanaian populace, so that we will fight against corruption.
Okay, that is interesting. Corruption is a canker in Africa, and then if we are going to eradicate corruption, then we need the input of student leaders. So right now, I'm going to give you another spot. Give us a commitment that as a student leader, because everybody is watching you, and in future, definitely we will know that you find yourself in a leadership position. Give us a final commitment that you are going to spearhead the Agenda 2063, which is eliminating corruption in Africa. Give us your commitment.
Okay. I'm 100% committed, and I pledge to be a leader who is going to fight corruption, who is going to have very high integrity, going to be very honest, to ensure that the people of Ghana and the people of Africa benefit from what they are supposed to benefit, instead of having all of that benefit go into one person's pocket, because that is what is making Africa still not to develop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to also ensure in my own way to also ensure that personally I also boot out corruption in anywhere I find myself, that I'm not going to pay money to anybody because I need a favor, and I'm not going to take money from anybody because the person needs favor. The right thing is supposed to be done. Our integrity should be key, so that the entire Africa and the entire Ghana can progress, so that this canker called corruption will be kept in Africa.
Okay, finally, what do you have to tell our leaders? Currently, our leaders we have in Africa, what do you have to tell them?
Okay. What I have to tell our leaders in Africa is that it is not personal gains that is going to make you successful. It is not personal gains at all. It's about you working harder and harder. It's about you realizing your true potentials, and through it, you get and you become successful. It's not about the country's assets being put into your pocket. It's not about personal gains. When you actually chart a course whereby the country or the nation benefits, that's how come you also become successful as a leader. So it is true that we African leaders, everybody has families, but the nation or the continent is our bigger family. So let us think about them. Let us think about the nation as a whole, the development that Africa needs, so that we can get there. And I believe that the leaders are also in their own way going to push this corruption out, so that Africa becomes a place that everyone would desire to be. Because news that we've heard and reports that we've heard from even the U.S. ambassador to Ghana, and what he's saying is that industries and companies from U.S. are failing to come to Africa and Ghana because they are afraid, because bribery is the case in Ghana and Africa, because those companies have to pay bribe before they are giving presence in Ghana. And when the U.S. government finds out that those companies paid those corruption and those bribes, they would be dealt with. That is why they are not coming. So please, yes, so let us fight this corruption so that we can get more foreign investment in our country, to get more jobs for the youth to be satisfied in Ghana. So the leaders of Africa, please, let's together unite. Let us not fake it. Let's work in unison to achieve this feat. Thank you.
All right, viewers, that is the voice of the youth. That is the voice of a student leader to the leaders currently in government. Let's make the commitment to eradicate corruption on the continent. Thank you very much, Mr. Justice. All right.
because it is based purely on the demand that we have for jobs on the market. And I think that we need to be looking at these things and extrapolating or projecting so that we can be able to see afar and say, looking at the trends, these are the kind of qualifications that will be required and skills that will be needed to develop Africa. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Goski. Now, to go into the skills, we would also want to talk about the changing trends. Now, you can be at a job. Let's say you are hired as a programmer. You are programming in C. C is a language that's used to program systems. 5 years. Actually, in IT, every 6 months, everything changes. So if you are still holding on to that skill, you're a programmer in C, 5 years from now, how are you helping? You understand? So the question I wanted to ask is, how do we maintain skills throughout each individual's life cycle so that we can continue to learn even though we are on the job? And how we adopt to modern practices and acquire new skills and new technologies, because when they are being brought, the person who is in charge of that job would not allow the system to work because he doesn't know how to operate it. And it is so in many of our institutions. There are so many technologies. They bring a computer there. The person always uses paper. The person will resist it to the last degree. And because of the human factor, the system will not work. So how do we maintain skills? How do we make sure that those who have skills and have jobs are able to keep on adapting and be able to adapt to modern trends so that we can also improve? Is there anyone who would like to give the... Okay, Professor Goski.
I think that, first of all, we need to promote open-mindedness through the way we teach and learn. We need to realize that learning is the basis of development. If you cannot learn new things, you can't develop yourself, both at the individual level, at the organizational level, and national level. If we can build that learning spirit into ourselves and our organizations, I believe we'll go a long way to renew ourselves. It's all about learning. It's not about teacher-dependent teaching. So I think that is one of the things we need to do. And we need to promote innovation and creativity. The way we are taught does not kind of generate in us that passion to experiment, that passion to be creative, that passion to innovate. And until we're able to do that and allow people to develop based on what is inside of them, I think that it will be very difficult for us to.
How many of you...
Okay, still on the coverage of the African Youth Summit. With me is the Vice President of the Idea Factor in the person of Samuel Sasu Adonting. Samuel, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so Samuel, to begin with, what's the whole idea behind, what's the idea factor about?
Okay, so basically, Idea Factor is about people development. Yes, so we have three mantra, which is leadership, entrepreneurship, and governance. We have our motto as grooming tomorrow's leaders today. It's all about people development for the future. So concurrently, we are operating in most universities. We organize our programs through seminars and then meetings that are expected to allow people to express their thoughts on certain African issues.
So what caused you people to come together to form this idea factor?
All right. So basically, as I earlier stated, that it's all about grooming tomorrow's leaders today, and that as Africans, we have, as African youth, we have the mandate to ensure that we are able to come up and compete globally, to ensure that we contribute our quota to the development of Africa and then the world at large.
So who are the brains behind Idea Factor?
Okay, so I am the co-founder of Idea Factor, and then with my founder as Emmanuel Dugbache. He's currently the president of Idea Factor National. So I'm the vice president for Idea Factor National and the president for Idea Factor UPSA.
So what has the participation been like? Is it that a lot of people are eager to come on board, or you are still struggling to get people to join your platform?
Okay, so we kickstarted in the year 2014. Yes, in the year so that we've been 4 years down the line, and then we've been. I think the first year we started, we hosted a program with Bakwisi Indo, yes, which had about over 400 people in attendance at UPSA. Yes, and then since then, because of that's how we started, people have really been wanting to come on board. We've hosted seminars in Zenith College, Mount Crest.
See, the reason why Africa is now the target for a lot of these
Legon,
giants and investors
UPSA as well. Yes.
GIPC is attracting lots of foreign direct
Then
investments
why
and all
the
that is
need
because
for this
they've
summit,
solved all
and
their
why the
problems.
need to collaborate with the Association of African Universities to promote your ideas?
Okay, so it wasn't basically to just promote Idea Factor. Yes, as you can see, as the African Youth Summit, and the thematic areas were based on corruption, how we can alleviate corruption to ensure that we can advise our best interests as young African people. You get it? Because in the next 10 years, we as a youth will be taking over. And what are we coming with? Are we coming to fit into the shoes of our leaders with the same corrupt attitudes, or are we coming in to ensure that we fight for the best interest of our people and then to ensure that our country moves forward? So we came on board to partner Association of African Universities as the mother of all universities in Africa, who can reach a larger platform to ensure that we reach a larger number of students to come on board and then listen to what we as youth, or we can come on board and push forward to ensure that we have a better country and a better continent.
So now that you've captured the attention of the Association of African Universities, what do you plan to do with this platform?
Okay, so we have a lot of training programs that we offer for young people. And I think that this part, such as entrepreneurial programs. Yes, so we partnered with Equipubs last year, and we ran an entrepreneurial program for students in UPSA. Yes, so what we did was that the entrepreneurial program included how public speaking, how to develop ideas, how to develop your business idea with the problems that you've identified in the society. Yes, and it was very, very successful. We had people being able to bring up wonderful business ideas. And we also partnered with the Association of Business Administration Students in UPSA to run a business idea pitch program, which went quite well.
So who can join Idea Factor?
Any student in Ghana can join Idea Factor from the university level, right from level 100. Okay, so I was about going to that. From June, we are running a project in the various high schools. That the people that we've impacted in the various universities will now be moving with them to the various high schools. That what they've learned, they should now go and teach students in the high schools. So from there is when we'll run our flagship for the various senior high schools.
It's been nice having you. We hope that next time we call upon you, you'll be willing to show up and then answer our questions.
Sure.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so with me has been Samuel Sasu Adonting, who talked about Idea Factor and the whole initiative, what prompted them to form the Idea Factor and their initiatives. They seek to promote the initiatives of the youth in making them better people for our country. Okay, stay tuned for more on the Youth Summit.
Adults like myself, working like me, you are my competitor. So my willingness to share information, data, and help you out, as I would have had if you were in school, will be different if I see you as a competition. You understand? So for me, to harness your skills, to increase your skills, be curious about learning, as she said. There's so much information, so many things that you can do. If it is boring for you, don't waste your time. It should be exciting. But the moment something you are trying to do is boring, don't waste your time. Go and find the things that are exciting and then find out globally what people are doing to make money from it. Because with the internet, you don't need to even move from Ghana. You can still make money. I mean, we have social media people that are making $10,000 every month just by posting the same things you post. You are doing your face some way. If it is money you want, there are people making millions, not with tie and suit like me. You understand? So please be very curious and try things. Try everything. Try everything. How many of you have watched Zootopia? Oh, my ladies have. You haven't watched, you don't even like cartoons. We have a problem. Please, like cartoons. Try everything. You are too young to be too careful. I mean, if you are not 25, and cry, oh, it's gone far. Oh, yeah, if you are not 30, why are you careful? Try everything. Go everywhere. Be curious about everything. And now the world is looking for ambassadors. So the moment you show, even on Facebook, that Charlie, like you're sitting here, let them take professional pictures of you. Put it on Facebook. You see that some people will be calling you. UN will call you. AU will call you. Commonwealth will call you. And they'll be flying you all over the world for free. I have never paid for tickets before. I don't even know how to book tickets for traveling. But I've traveled almost everywhere. Free. Just because on my Facebook, I'm serious there. You understand? We will talk more. But just be curious and do things. Do things. Try things. All right? Try things. Don't just go to class. That's not SS. SS is go to class, come to dorm, go to prep, come to dorm. That's it. Ask for exit before you go. University is not like that. When I went to Tech, 4 years, I went to school for 1 year. 3 years, I was roaming everywhere, learning new things. I'll tell you more later. So be curious and join different networks, because out of that, you'll be able to get knowledge about what is new, what is in vogue, and then what you can learn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mensah. And Mr. Mensah, I realize that a lot of people see challenges and they're like, this thing is always like this. Then they skip it. Rather than finding out, what can I do to make it better? Because everybody else faces the same challenge. You see, we do not think about how to solve it. We think about this problem has always been there. Why won't these people, you are the person that can fix it. You thought about something to do. So do it and you'll be known for it. Okay? Mr. Gainford, would you like to ask something before we move on to our young population?
I really would. I think when I saw the team for charting the course for our next generation, it's very apropos, and I think we have to be very serious. Basic economic principle: land, labor, capital. In Africa, we have abundance of land, which is natural resources. Labor, which is human capital. We have a lot of them, as the projection shows. We have about 65% of the world youth population. That is a potential for growth for Africa. But how are we preparing them for the 21st century? We are using 20th century education models to meet the challenges of 21st century. We are way off the game. as an educator and as instructional technologists. What scares me most are the trends. Technology is changing at 6 months every time the technology is moving. In 2008, when the financial crisis hit, a lot of people who had jobs, good jobs, lost their jobs. Because why? Technology has overtaken them. The type of education they had was the 19th century education. And when they went back, they wanted to look for the first thing they ask you, do you have computer skills? That is some of the challenges we have on the continent in Africa. There's so many universities out there turning out, I call it, degree mills. Training people not for the right jobs. And that's why we have what you call unemployed graduates. Why? The question is why? What sort of preparation did they get in the educational system that was supposed to build that human capacity to prepare them for the jobs? So that is the challenge. But we are lucky. The technology is there. These days you have to be innovative, look at trends, and there are projections for job. Your job does not look here. It's global. I know software engineers who are in Ghana who are working for global companies. Right now the name is Virtual. There's a book, Read the Fourth Industrial Revolution. That is the scariest part. In this era of artificial intelligence and machine learning, we are 50 years behind if we don't change or leapfrog. So that is the challenge. The potential is there. You have to look at your profession. If you want to become an architect, what are the trends that technology is using in your field? You have to be current on the latest technology. The undergraduate that you get is supposed to prepare you, but if you want to become an expert in your field, you have to know the technologies that are changing your environment. I learned that lesson probably I'll give out my age. In 1989, when I came out of tech, I went to the UK as a textile technologist and computer graphics and a graphic designer. Computers were taking over. So I said to myself, I'm going to get out of here when I'm done. After my service, I had to go and learn how to use the computers. These days, for you, it's artificial intelligence and machine learning. That is what you have to look at. How is that trend changing your job prospects? If you are an accountant, if you are a lawyer, if you are an architect, if you are a civil engineer, how is your job going to look like when you are out? Because you are competing on the global stage. It's not just Ghana. That is where you have to leverage the technology that is within your industry. These days, you can take any courses anywhere. You can take courses from MIT, Coursera, edX, and what have you, to supplement what you are learning. If you want to stay current and you are doing whatever degree, you can take any courses from the authorities out there in Harvard, in Stanford, and what have you, free of charge. If you want to graduate, then you go there. But if you want to graduate here, but you can get the knowledge that are within the skill to improve yourself or prepare yourself for the 21st century. Because that is where the businesses are. 40% of the businesses that are coming out of emerging technology, as he said, social media and all those things, these businesses are being turned over every day. And you can be an entrepreneur with your job. Look at how you use it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gainford. Now we have Mr. Kwame Nabudu, the head of communications and brand of GHL Bank. Can you please join us here? He came in and he's one of our panelists. Oh, please, you can do better than that. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Gainford, your point brought us to artificial intelligence. Now, this is the ability of computers or systems to mimic human intelligence. So rather than putting a human being, let's say, behind the counter of your bank, you are going to put e-commerce, e-banking, mobile banking, and because of that, a lot of banks are laying off their workers. This is artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, making sure that things can think for you. Now, how many of you use iPhones here? iPhones? Okay, or Androids? Androids, okay. Now, I'm not really sure about the Android, but there's Google, okay, okay. There's a term. You can actually ask Google or your phone to do something for you. You can ask it to book flights for you. You can ask it to respond to messages. You receive the messages, all that. It can do so many things. iPhone's equivalent of that is Siri, and she does so much for you. This is artificial intelligence. Why would you pay for someone who would be, I think years ago when we had the phone booth, you'd have to call the person behind and the person will route you to someone. That's not so. You just search online, Google, you're able to get whoever you want. So artificial intelligence is becoming a threat to the young population because as a businessman, I always look for my financial gain, okay? Rather than hiring 10 people to do a certain job, I can have one computer for the cost of one to handle that same job. Which one makes business sense? Of course, the computer, okay? So how are we going to make sure that we are, the young population that we are projected to have as Africa, how are we going to make sure that we can still stay relevant in this era of artificial intelligence? So what exactly is artificial intelligence being used for on the global scale? I've mentioned about two of them. Now, the last one I also want to mention is Tesla. How many of you have heard of Tesla? Very good. So Tesla is the leading electronic car making company in the world. They make electronic cars. That's all they do. Now, they've produced, as at February 2014, 14th February this year, they've produced 300,000 cars, okay? The staff that work at Tesla are less than 1,000. 300,000 cars, less than 1,000 people work there. So that is a big challenge. That is a machinery. And usually it has thousands of workers. That creates a lot of employment for so many people. So how are we going to combat this? And what do you think Africa needs to do in order to be able to overcome this challenge that is looming, is almost already here? Anyone would like to start with that on how we can?
Okay, so for me, the biggest challenge Africa faces is democracy and the lack of a vision. For me, democracy is a no-no. I wish we would have dictatorship. But unfortunately, they get power drunk and then they start, messing around. But a typical example is the case of Rwanda. And that's an amazing story of what Africa can be if they have a visionary leader who knows where he's taking this country. I think we had one, but to avoid all kinds of politics, I won't go into that. But as you said, what is our vision? I mean, there were times that even when we were young, we knew about the American dream. And it was basically because in America, anything you try, it will succeed. So then it attracted all kinds of brains from the whole world. And now America is a superpower because it is not only built by Americans. In fact, when you go to America, the Native Americans are actually Indians. But the fact is this: where there's no vision, the people perish. And this is biblical. Whether you're a Christian or Muslim, it's something that it pertains to all of us. As a country, as a continent, we really do not have vision. We have policies and we have manifestos. And manifestos change with every changing government, you see. And unfortunately, if you're a socialist government and then everybody likes you because of the money you put in their pocket, and then you tend to be a capitalist government, you have to tackle the macroeconomics, and then you get to the microeconomics, and then eventually everybody gets money in their pockets. But what the current government is doing, it might probably be difficult for all of us to get money in our pockets until the next term. And if they don't win again, then everything goes back to reset, because as a country, we don't have a vision. We don't know where we are going, and we probably will not know when we get there. Now, the story of artificial intelligence is very interesting. And for me, I always say that we are in a very privileged position. If people are already doing it in the world, and we have access to that information through what we call the internet, and it hasn't come here yet, then all we have to do is to copy. In fact, we do that very well in school, but I don't know why we I don't know why we don't do that in life. See, life is only two things, the leader and then the follower. If you're not leading, you are following. So if you're not a good leader, Africa is not a first world country. We are not probably a second world. So then that means that we have models to already follow. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to set up a committee for every problem that we see. It's been done. So let's just copy and then model it to suit our environment. You understand? Artificial intelligence is amazing. But there are companies that have these artificial intelligence. And then now people are buying shares in those companies. Forex trading. I don't know how many of you know it. If you can't have a job in that company, start buying shares in the company now. Do you understand what I'm saying? Listen, how many of you know about forex trading or shares or even Ghana Stock Exchange or the alternative stock markets? You don't know all these things, but information is available. Guys, there are two things. Either you work in the company or you own the company. There are people sitting here that own parts of EcoBank, and a point will come in their life that they don't need to lift a finger, and they'll still be getting enough dividends to take care of their family. Don't be scared of artificial intelligence because it is only going to make work efficient, and you can't stop it. You see, if you can't stop somebody, you join them, or if you can't beat them, you join them. So listen, I'm an advocate for entrepreneurship, and for me, it's not about setting up a business. Even when you're working for somebody, you have to think entrepreneurial. As she said, be innovative, be creative. If you can't find a job, own the job. Own the business, and you can start from now. What are the companies that have been floated already? New York Stock Exchange, Madagascar Stock Exchange, Ghana Stock Exchange. And how do I get shares? And shares, some of them are what's the value of the Facebook share as of today? You don't know. Listen, guys, please, don't be scared. I mean, I'm not one of those people that are always, talking about loom and gloom and no. Everything is exciting. The world is supposed to be a fun place. But the problem is that we are either overthinking or over-worrying, but underdoing. Artificial intelligence, you can't stop it. Either you start learning about it now and how to, and even now you're talking about cryptocurrency. People hear it and then just brush it until it affects them. Read about it, have fun with it, play with it, learn, so that by the time it gets here, you be the resource that people will call on. Because the world is getting to a point where they need expertise. So that you realize that my fellow panelists, none of them is doing one job. None. I can bet my life on this. I know. Either they are a full-time lecturer somewhere, and even that one they've signed a contract that I can't come here from 8 to 5. It came, that 8 to 5, it's gone. And that's why even outside they do wages and not salary. They should pay you for the hours you work. It's called billable hours. So then some of them are lecturers. Some of them are consultants. I know lecturers that write one article and they take $10,000. That's not artificial intelligence. There are some things that artificial intelligence cannot do. So then you either be part of this IT thing that, but think about what are the emerging technologies, what are the emerging companies, and how do I get a share of this? Now, when you look at the world's top billionaires, you know that there are people that own, in fact, there are no employees in the world's top billionaires. That's a fact. But there were people that helped start the business, that had shares in the business. So then eventually they are also billionaires. But there are two types of people that you should pay attention to. One are the people that start the business, and the second are the people that buy shares in the businesses. So Warren Buffett is not necessarily an entrepreneur. How many of you know Warren Buffett? He's just a shareholder. He looks at companies that actually, okay, Tesla, I'll buy some 100,000. This one, I'll buy some this. So he has shares in almost every company. And all he does is he has a holding company that actually gets the dividends. And that makes him a billionaire. And then there is Facebook. He has to set up the business. So that's why when a Facebook has a problem, they'll call Mark Zuckerberg and not Warren Buffett. So please, be smart about these things. If you can't be part of the whole revolution or evolution, own it, own part of it. So the bigger it gets, the richer you get. But if you're not curious enough to find out, okay, how will this affect me? But how will I buffer myself against it so that even if it comes and then I lose my job, I can still have part of the company? So think like that, because you're too young not to be thinking smart.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so would like to add a little. I think that the first thing to do is to overcome the fear for technology. I was amazed recently. I'll give you two examples. The first example is that myself, I am not an IT person. I don't have a degree in instructional technology, and Doug knows that. But I realized quite early in my career that very soon IT will be taken over. And therefore, I needed to prepare myself for the future. So came up with the idea that I wanted to set up the first open university in Ghana and have it accredited. God being so good, together with other people, Lawa Open University is today the first accredited open university and the second in West Africa. You see, I wasn't afraid. Today, we have set up a university, set up an online library, where you can be anywhere in the world and access your books with over 1 million books, right? And how did we do it? We didn't have to bring people from anywhere. We didn't have to bring people with PhDs in the field. There were just young people who we needed to give directions to create exactly what we wanted, because we can think about it, we can imagine it, we can create it in our minds, but we didn't have the technical know-how to do it. And the people we took had IT background, but they didn't have the technical know-how to do these things. Listen, we went online, used YouTube, myself, YouTube to learn about different systems that can be used to do it. Then I go to the IT guys and say, hey, IT people, look here. You've seen this one, it can be used. Let's test it. You've seen this one, it can be used. But I'm not an IT person. Now, I was somehow even teaching the IT people with the qualifications what to do. Where did I get the knowledge? I got the knowledge from YouTube, the internet, because I was curious enough and I wanted to learn. But once they started to do it, they can come back and tell me, no, Prof, this one, it has this limitation. We have discovered another one which can do the job better. And this is how we have created the several systems and models that we are using. And today, bigger universities are coming to us for us to teach them how we have done it. So like they're saying, it is possible. You can do it. All you need is to be curious, break the barriers, look for something you are passionate about. Because if you are not passionate about it, it will kill you. When you are not getting the results, you'll be so frustrated that if you don't take care, you'll not be interested in trying anything else. Okay. The second example I wanted to give, we decided that we are going to do a coding clinic. So we got someone from Canada who was visiting, but has an IT, the techie background. And then we did an online ad. So a lot of people, young and old, applied and came. There were people who didn't have a clue. Me, I decided to sit in it because I wanted to know how to write codes, right? And then they started with C. So we started learning how to code in C. But the surprising thing, by the end of the 1 week, people had developed applications, people who had never been able to, they had developed applications which you can use, for example, to test your sugar level. And if your sugar level is out of range, it will begin to beep and give you colors, which shows that you are in the danger or you're... They sat there in that 1 week, lay people to develop such ones. There were ones that they developed applications that if an aircraft is flying and it's about to go into danger, you know, some signals to be given. And I sat and asked myself, so did we have this potential in these people? Are you getting my point? So as we sit here, there is so much potential in us. It is either we decide that we are going to put ourselves 100 years behind time going forward by not embracing IT and not deliberately taking an aspect of IT that we will be very much interested in and flow with. I attended a meeting recently, and when a professor had to present, he came with a long piece of paper which had handwritten notes. And he was not supposed to give a lecture or a talk. He was supposed to do a presentation. Then when he mounted the podium, he said, "Pardon me, but you know, I'm BBC, born before computer." But who told you that you have to put yourself a choice? Who told you you needed to choose that embarrassing choice of saying, "Pardon me, because of the time I was born, my situation, so I'm BBC"? It is a choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Mr. Buju would like to say something.
Okay, so a lot has been said. I will just add a few points. I think to begin with, I like to practicalize things. So let's look at life like an ocean. In life, there are two things. You either sail or you get drifted. What that means is that if you are sailing, you are putting in a conscious effort to make things happen. If you do not do that, you get drifted by the waves. That is how life is. So there is no middle point. You are either making an effort to make things happen, or you are resigning your fate to biara biara, whatever happens. Okay, so that is one. The examples that have been given, you see that there was a conscious effort to differentiate. I mean, he talked about not necessarily being the owner, but if you are not even the creator, how do you jump on board to ensure it benefits you? Prof has talked about how he used YouTube to do things. The question I ask is, there are many other universities around. Prof could have chosen to be like any other, but she chose to differentiate herself. So that's the next point I'm bringing to the fore. In the business arena, nobody is interested in a Me Too. Let's get that clear. Even before we get into the market, nobody is interested in a Me Too. Me Too means you do just what everybody does. You need to stand out. I'm sure we are all conversant with fonts and typefaces. There is regular, there is italics, and there is the bold. Why do you have to be regular when you can be italics or bold? Why do you have to stand in when you can stand out? What am I saying? All I'm saying is that you do not need to conform to the status quo in whatever you do. You need to stand out. You need to be differentiated. There has to be something about you, so that if we are looking at two people, we can clearly say that, oh, this guy is the one we will pick. And that is because of what differentiates you from another. Usually, I mean, Prof also talked about the kind of talent or potential that was unearthed when people applied themselves to technology. Look, I finished school before I consciously had to go through what a computer is. I didn't go to any computer school. But the kind of things I do with a computer, it's amazing. Why is that? Because I had to conscientize myself that this is the trend. It's already been said, you cannot push against the grain. If the winds are blowing this way, you are better off riding on the tides than going opposite. Technology is not something you can fight, whether you like it or yes. So the earlier you brainwash yourself, usually sometimes we want other people to do the brainwashing. This one, it has to be introspection. You need to brainwash yourself and then tell yourself that, hey, this is the trend. This is how I can ride on that to get me where I'm going to. The last thing I want to add is about potential. Many people have potential, but until you really apply it to the requisite task, it's useless. Let's assume we are here. You want to get down. There are thousands of ladders here. If you do not know the use of the ladder, you probably would want to join our jackets or our dresses or our ties to form a rope and get down. So it does not matter the level of potential you have. What makes it relevant is, one, you knowing yourself. You need to know yourself. Prof has talked about, no, I think my co-panelist before Prof, vision. Vision. You need to know where you want to get to. That's the most important thing. Having known where you want to get to, you need to know yourself. Man, know yourself. Woman, know yourself. It's not enough to have a dream. You need to know yourself and realize that, okay, I want to get this far. But looking at myself, this is where I am. And therefore, this is the variance. And then I can apply myself and work towards it. These are basic principles of life. So let's get it clear. And as our fellow panelists have said, let's apply it. Life is not about just going through it. You either resign yourself to every wind blowing you apart, or you make it a conscious effort to ride on the tides and go with the trends and make an impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luke. Now, to go into this,
Let me just try and demystify this whole idea about artificial intelligence or technology. Back in the days, this was the current technology, right? But these days, it's not about reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's more digital literacy. So what I will say is that in whatever course or program you are in, look at the technologies that are impacting your course or program or your career. And then learn those technologies, how to use them. We've all become, these days we become just consumers. But what we are trying to ask you as learners or professionals, you have to become creators. That is why you are going to university, to get a degree. You have to be creators. You are not going to become consumers of a product. You are the knowledge, or you are adding to the body of knowledge. So learn within your specific industry or career or job or course you are taking. What are the various technologies that are impacting it? Artificial intelligence is basically riding on data. Have most of you realized when you are typing, right? Then Word is trying to suggest words. Right? Are you aware of that? When you're using words, Microsoft Word or what have you, that is basically Microsoft trying to build a database on which artificial intelligence is riding. So when you are doing your work or you are typing, it's trying to think for you. But invariably, you have to be, you are the most intelligent person in that equation. Because if you don't, and you click send, what happens? It sends a gibberish with a word that you are not trying to write. So the whole thing about this technology is it's everywhere in our lives. But we have to know how we are going to leverage that tool to your advantage. And you can learn it anywhere. Like you talk about coding or HTML or CCS, JavaScript. Those are basic language. They are formats. You can learn it easily if it's part of your job. How many of you are accountants? Are studying accounting? What is the basic technology behind accounting these days? The basic technology behind any accounting software program. What? Tally, Excel. Those are the basic things. So if you are an accountant, you should know that to the T. Access databases. So those are the basic core of what, if you know these Microsoft Word. Microsoft is very powerful. It controls 70% of the world workplace. But if you delve deep into it and you learn it, you'll become the best accountant you are if you are creating formulas and spreadsheet in accounting. Don't be scared of technology. It's just a tool. As an instructional technologist, I tell you, it's just a tool. It doesn't do anything. We are the best computer. No computer in the world can beat this. But you have to learn how to appropriate. We call it appropriation. It gives you affordances. That's what the technology does. And then you have to leverage it to appropriate to do what you want it to do. It will never do it unless you. So you are in the driver's seat. So learn how to use it to create applications, to create programs. That is how we're going to change our local system. I bring it to Ghana. The problem that we're having, we have to look at the technology and what are the values that we are going to use to add, to leverage or change the jobs in Ghana. That's what we want to do. If you want a job, you have to know in our local sense, what are the technologies that will impact? We call something leapfrog. You don't start from the basic. If it's artificial intelligence, what it's doing, you go ahead. Learn, go above it. Because the sky is the limit when it comes to technology. But you have to make a conscious effort to want to take time and learn. These days it's called lifelong learning. Learning is student-centered. It's not the lecturer or teacher-centered. So you have to be in the middle as to what do I want to learn, what do I want to do, and leverage the technology to do that. Because when you go out there, you stand above your friend. When you go with the same degree, and that person has some technological aptitude, they're going to look at him because nobody wants to employ somebody and teach them on the job. Don't. They'll bring a technology or a tool to do it, and you are out of the window. So that is what we have to do. Learn how the technology is impacting our jobs, and we can survive.
Thank you very much. Now, a Stanford lecturer was saying that and explaining computers and saying computers are extremely powerful tools, but very stupid because they just do what you tell them to do. So whatever challenge you have, you tell the computer, do this, then it does that. That is basically artificial intelligence, trying to mimic human intelligence to make the application work for you rather than you having to do it manually. So these are opportunities we can use. So as Mr. Mensah says, buy shares, okay? So don't be afraid to buy shares in companies that you predict can do well. The bamboo bikes, I don't know if they've gone on the stock exchange yet. We also have a new trend at Legon where students are using bicycles. I think it's something on social media now that students are using. There are so many opportunities, especially if you're on social media. So, and try to share stuff so that others can also see what is happening. Now, I would also want to ask, now, we see that Africa has a lot of natural resources. We're able to make a lot of money. We have these ideas, these skills. How do we leverage making sure that we as a continent promote intra-regional trade? Because if we are able to sell to ourselves, which is a big challenge here in Ghana, in Africa, selling to ourselves, we might be able to even overlap and, as you said, leapfrog the existing systems. Because if, let's say, we have a company that processes the cocoa we generate here in Africa, we sell our cocoa beans to them, they produce the chocolates, we can also buy, and then it goes throughout Africa. But we have a method of, when I get something, I want to hide it in Africa. We are so scared of letting out knowledge. And I know it's part of competition, I get that. But what can we do to help intra-African trade, to make sure that we can trade amongst ourselves and we can go forward using that?
Thank you very much. I think that traditionally one could say indirect importation or exportation is something that we could consider. But come to think about it, in the age of technology, what is Jumia doing? What is Tonaton doing? Okay, So if Jumia has advertised some things on the internet, and somebody in La Cote d'Ivoire or Nigeria sees it online, are you getting my point of view? There is practically no need for you to say, I'm sending somebody all the way there to Nigeria to go and market the product for me, or for me to go through all the difficulties that come with the traditional importation to send the stuff. We can sell millions and trade millions on the internet. So it is important that from a very simple ABC point of view, I would say that we encourage e-business and online business, and encourage the students, or particularly the youth, to explore how they can use Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and all of those to begin to do some business or to begin to trade. Then we'll see that in the shortest possible time, we would have intertrade going on. When you look at the music industry, they already invite people from other parts of the continent and collaborate with them to do things. And when they do that, I believe it goes a long way to promote their own works, creative works, so forth and so on. So in the same way, if people will buy Shatawale in Nigeria because it's having a banter with some Nigerian artists, it's the same way people will get to know about that Nigerian artist in Ghana and begin to patronize, their things. So we should look at the collaboration and integration from very practical points of view.
Yeah. And I see that it's something that is really happening now, where people are putting their products or their services online, that I do this, share. But sometimes we don't want to share, and you wait until the person becomes successful, then you are now trying to get in touch with the person. So let's learn to share, okay? Mr. Mason, do you have something?
Okay, I'm not controversial, but I think that, you see, African governments, they are not one. Even though we have AAU, we have ECOWAS, they are not one. And I'll still stress on the point of we don't have a vision, we just have policies. One of the challenges in trading in Africa is transportation. Listen, build a railway network across the African continent and trade would automatically happen. You see, the market determines how trade goes. If there's demand, there will definitely be supply. You don't even have to influence the markets in any way. You just have to put in the systems that make it easy for trade to happen. So then it is more difficult for me to travel throughout Africa, more expensive to go throughout Africa. African hotels are more expensive than any hotel in the world. African transport is more expensive than any transportation in the world. I can easily go to Turkey in 6.5 hours than end up in Ethiopia or Malawi or Uganda, or just because I want to do trade. Why would I want to sit in the plane, do transit through Ivory Coast, and then go to another country, and then do the same? It doesn't make economic sense. Build the railway network, and let us be able to facilitate trade across the African continent. But if I'm a business person, and it is easier for me to get to Turkey with my products, why wouldn't I do it? Private sector, you see, private sector is about profits. Private sector is not necessarily about being patriotic or liking made in Ghana and all those things. As long as the thing is not attractive and it doesn't have demand, nobody will go into it. The same way you see that every time somebody starts something and there's demand, a lot of investment finds that same thing. So somebody starts pure water or sachet water, and then everybody does sachet water. Where's the money? Where did the money come from? There's so much money for trade everywhere in the world. But the fact is, as long as it is difficult to get your products from one place to the other, why would I want to do that? And also, another challenge with Africa is our language. You know, you have one part of Africa speaking French, and the French people are trying to speak English. And you have another part of Africa speaking English, and the English people don't know anything French except bonjour. How do you encourage trade? You understand? I mean, I've seen African University, your Association of Africa, and everything they do has to either be in French or English, and that's expensive. So if I'm an English person and I'm traveling to Ivory Coast, and then I have to deal with French people, I have to go with an interpreter or somebody and that increases my cost. So I rather not do it. You see, I just send it to UK or US where it is easy to. But then when you look at even China, they are making a conscious effort to learn English. When you go to Turkey, everybody that is involved with international trade, they know a bit of English. But then the English people don't know anything about any other language. And that's why people that know how to speak at least 2-3 languages are already guaranteed success 60 to 80% just by knowing another language. Because even if you don't want to work a day in your life, all you have to do is to find a place where they would need the other language you speak. Now, I'll give this one example and stop talking. There is this Chinese teacher who became a millionaire overnight by setting up an online platform that teaches Chinese people English. So then he set the platform and does his English tutorials. He speaks English and Chinese. So he does his English tutorials on the platform, and then he charges $10 per lesson. He launched the platform, went to bed, woke up, and he was $12.5 million rich. Because 1.2 million people had signed up for his course, and he didn't have to be in front of all of them. Integration of technology and looking for what the problem is. Jack Ma, you know him, right? Alibaba. Please, do you know that he's not an IT person? How many of you know he's not an IT person? Yes, he doesn't do all those coding and everything. He just got excited about internet. As at the time he got excited about internet in US, there was no internet in China. First entry. So the moment he got to China, with his excitement about this internet and what it can do, he put people who knew about it, brought all the US people to China to set the whole Alibaba system up. 25 years down the line, he's the richest man in the whole of Asia. Please, my point is this. There are fundamental challenges that impede trade in Africa: language, transport, and the lack of vision of African leaders. You don't have to make that your problem. Look for those challenges and find a way of solving it, and you'll be rich. Thank you.
Okay. So since we're trying to wrap up, we'll just take 2 points on how you think Africa can end up being what we want. So everyone will give us 2 points, just 2 points on the Africa we want, how we can achieve it in the next 5 years. What do we need to do in the next 10 years to make sure we are on the path towards getting to the Africa we want?
Okay, so let me start.
Yes, please.
I will take it off from where Mr. Mensah ended and then add one more point to make it 2.
Yes.
So we already talked about the internet and all that is going on, the trends and all that. When you come to Africa, he's mentioned language, lack of vision by our leaders and all that. Now, while all this is happening, globalization is not waiting for us. Okay, while all this is happening, it's not as if the world is waiting for us. Whether we like it or not, the world's market increasingly merges every day. That is how come you'll probably find more Chinese products here than maybe even in China themselves. That is because globalization is happening, markets are merging. Examples about Alibaba and the use of internet and all that increasingly shows that things are moving virtual rather than physical presence. So while all this is happening and we are sleeping, it's going on, and that's how come other people are taking advantage of it, and then we turn around to complain. So what am I saying? I'm saying that, one, we do not have to stand by for this to happen. Some mistakes have happened. You and I are privileged to come from behind. You do not need to apply the same mistakes, or you do not need to make the same mistakes. One of the things I said earlier on was about making an impact, standing out. What is it that you can do? If your country is not doing it, what is it that you and I can do in our own individual corners to make things happen? My second point, to round this up, usually knowing what you want to do is one thing. Having it done is another. For many of us, or one of the problems with Africa, or with many of us, is the fact that we seem to have some fluffy ideas of what we want to do. As to whether or not we are there or we have the requisite know-how is another. So businesses spring up today, tomorrow they are gone. Something happens today, it's all flowery, tomorrow it's gone. Why? Because people do not take their time to study the market. People do not take their time to really get underneath the skin of the customer to see what they need. I'll cite 2 examples, then I'll pass on the mic. One, if you look around, there are other nationals that are making much, much more money than most of the Ghanaians. Why is that? Because they are able to see what we do not see. Why is that? Every customer or every consumer has a need. Now, when you identify that need and you provide a solution, it leads to growth. So we need to go beyond the obvious. We need to think. We need to be able to know what someone else is not doing and then apply it. And that is what can get us some incremental growth if we want to get there. The second thing, like I said, and this is just to differentiate between just observations and probably insights. For many of us, we just identify things on the surface and we take it hook, line, and sinker and run with it. Usually, underneath every behavior that a customer shows, there are some underlying things. What am I driving at? All I'm saying is that things are not always the way they seem superficially. So in our quest to make a difference as Africans and to change the status quo, it comes back to having our vision. At least you need to put a peg in the sand to know where you want to get to. Knowing yourself, you assess yourself and see, if I need to get there, do I have what it takes? If I don't, what do I lack? And then you work towards that. And ultimately, it's not about doing something that everybody is doing. It's not about, so pure water, so we are all doing it. If somebody goes to the next step to do, and I think it's happening, even within the pure water space, there is somebody who, for those of us who have lived in the villages, we know cooler. Cooler. We know cooler, right? Water from the cooler has a certain nice aroma. There are people who have already begun, I don't know how they do it, but incorporating this in their brand of sachet water. And it's driving sales for them. Ultimately, it's not about doing what you see everybody doing. It's not about standing in. It's about standing out and making an impact for yourself. If you always look at the government, you may be discouraged. Look at how you brighten your corner from where you are. And it becomes like a cancer. It starts with you, it affects other people around you, and gradually it will grow. You have what it takes. Those who have made it are not better than you and I. Apply yourself to it and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much. I would like to add that Africa should use what it has to get what it wants. And I believe Africa has 2 key things. The first is Africa's potential. And the second are the opportunities that abound for Africa. So, potential and opportunities. What are Africa's potentials? Africa has the most youthful population in the world. So as you sit here, you are Africa's potential. And within you lies that potential. Explore it. Make sure you are making that potential work for you to get what you want. The second thing is that opportunities abound, and the opportunities are all around you, just as the opportunities are around Africa. Locate one locate to and take advantage of them. The challenges in Africa are your opportunities. Look for them and take advantage of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Goski. Mr. Genford?
We actually, I think they said it all, but with globalization, right now we live in a shared economy. We live in a shared economy. You can buy anything from anywhere. All you need is identifying the tool, which is your internet. And that is what I think I pray. One of the things with regards to, aside from transportation, I think African leaders, we should take the bull by the horn and invest heavily in broadband technology. I don't know how we can do it, but if we can invest in broadband technology, that will be the leapfrog for us to have faster internet and be able to engage in all the technology potentials that we're talking about, be it in education, be it in business, be it in health, in whatever businesses we want. If it costs billions and the government is able to do that, that's what they did in Korea. And now we talk about Internet of Things, that is changing everything, where we have everything linked together. But broadband technology is the goal. If we have that, the shared economy is yours. And then identify, as she said, opportunities. Our problems or our issues are opportunities. How many of you know Zoom Lion, right? He made money out of garbage, right? That is business model. And he got $10 million from the World Bank to help clean his environment, to do the work. And now guess what? He's all over the continent. So what you have to do in your own little corner, identify a niche. You know what a niche is? A niche that is different. Don't be a follower. Copy that in the, oh, this one is selling rice, everybody is selling rice. Look at the needs of people and then find a niche. One of the things we have in Africa, in Ghana particularly, is education services. Everybody would like to take a course from any of the Ghanaian universities because in Africa, a lot of these African nations came through our universities and our schools. When I was in secondary school, a lot of them, South African people were in our secondary schools. But are we selling the service of education? Which means if we put our courses online, that's what we're doing in Legon. You can take any course from Legon, or Kevas, or Falawe, from anywhere. You build the infrastructure with the tools, online learning, and have your multimedia studio and build that thing. You can have satellite offices in Lagos, in what have you. They can take any course from your course. That is a service that we don't understand. You look at Cape Coast. There's so many schools there. That's the service they have. But Central Region, they say they are poor. They are not leveraging their products. A lot of us went through schools in Addis Ababa and whatever. Cape Coast, go there. How many schools do they have? Are they selling it? There's a lot of people who want education. We need knowledge. If we even package that and sell it, that itself is a product. But look at the niche. So wherever you are, look in your area or in your career and look at the niche and just create a little niche for yourself and then use the technology, the social media, Facebook, Instagram, and market. Penetration is being visible. So if you have a product and it's on Facebook, Instagram, what have you, you are all over the globe. All you need is now you need a cryptocurrency or a credit card for somebody to buy your product. And you are done. So the technology is there, use it. It's just with the click of a button. That's all you need.
All right, I'll be quick. We're all tired. First of all, there's a difference between working in a company and working for a company. Please choose working for a company. A lot of us go to school so that we can work in one company or the other. That whole system is actually becoming obsolete. You know, working for a company enables you to be the talent, and then you deliver, and then they pay you for it. So that's the new world of work. I work for 6 organizations. Okay, British Council, Government of Ghana, Premium Bank, Dual Works in US, and all those things. And I don't have to go to work in the morning and close in the evening. I do some things for them, they pay me for it, and then I'm done with them. That is what you should be looking out for. How do you build your skills to the point where they need that skill more than your presence in an office? Because eventually, a lot of companies will not even have offices. All right, so please look out for what can I do to distinguish myself and build my skills so much that I would work for companies and individuals and clients and not necessarily work in the companies, especially if they don't have an office. Where can you work? Right. The second thing is that, guys, how many of you have dreams? You have big dreams. Oh, Charlie, why? What's up? Big dreams. All right, so I'm inviting you for my conference on Saturday. All right, I do a conference called Igniting Dreams Conference as part of my birthday celebrations. I don't do parties. I don't have time for that. So every April, I do a conference called Igniting Dreams Conference. It's for 300 young people. And then I work with them for a period of 12 months after the conference to make sure they are sharpening their dreams and they are going in the direction of pursuing that dream. So if you want to be part, please, we are inviting you on Saturday, 9 a.m. at the British Council. Come join the dreamers, and then let me see what I can do to help you achieve your dreams. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, panelists. We're very thankful for your insights and your comments, which helped to make this discussion very successful. And we also thank you in the audience who were able to bear with us, even though we skipped your lunch. But no worries, we are going directly after this. So we would like to thank you all for honoring our invitation again. And we'd also like to thank those in the audience. So I'll hand over to the MC, and we'll be able to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The panel discussion as well. Okay, so let's continue.
Still on the African Youth Summit.
All right, please,
with me,
walk outside, take your lunch.
Professor Gokski Alabi. Today we've learned about the Africa we want, how to achieve the Agenda 2063 and Africa beyond corruption. And this has been a very enlightening discussion. And sadly, we've come to the end of today's program. But we'll continue tomorrow and Friday, where there will be different panel discussions on various topics for the youth to learn from, to sustain this continent. Okay. So, with me is Professor Gokski Alabi, who is the Dean at the Center for International Education and Collaboration. Thank you very much, Madam. Okay, Madam, please, in your opinion, what are some of the impediments to achieving Agenda 2063?
Well, that's interesting. I think that the first impediment is our readiness, and the fact that many of us do not even know about Agenda 2063, let alone to know what is in Agenda 2063. So I think that we need to disseminate Agenda 2063 very, very widely. We should use the governments, we should use the ministries, we should use the schools, universities, secondary schools, primary schools. We should disseminate the Agenda 2063. We should also ensure that we prepare the minds of our people so they can begin to implement or work with Agenda 2063. I believe that we also need a monitoring mechanism, like the way we had the African peer review mechanism. We should have such a mechanism for following through on the implementation of Agenda 2063 and holding different countries accountable for their performance with respect to Agenda 2063.
Thank you. And please, do you have any advice for the youth?
Okay. I have said that Africa has two key things that we can use to develop. The first is Africa's potential, and the second is the opportunities that abound for Africa. So we need to use that. Africa needs to use what it has, which are these two things, potential and opportunities, to get what it wants. Now, the youth are the potential of Africa, and within each youth lies that potential. So we should search for that potential that lies within each and every one of us. As youth, we should not be afraid. We should explore. We should be ready to explore, look for something we are passionate about, and give our energies to it. It is not a problem if we fail. We can only learn from our mistakes, but then we can grow when we learn. So I encourage all of us to do that. The second thing is for us to look around us for the opportunities that abound and take advantage of them. Every problem, every challenge in Africa is an opportunity for us to explore and grow. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, Prof. Okay. This brings us to the end of today's session. See you same time tomorrow.